way that we design products has changed a lot in recent decades. Technology and access to information have completely transformed the way that we design. There are 4 major phases that dramatically impact the success of any product. As designers, these can make or break our career. Products that are good rarely gain any recognition. However, products that are bad almost always rise to fame. I want to tell you what these phases are, and I want to help you succeed in each one of them. Almost all design disciplines require that designers perform some kind of research. This phase begins by developing a project brief and then analyzing the product's market and its users. Now let's explore the finer details of research and discovery. It can be easily subcategorized in 4 stages. The first phase is what we refer to as problem comprehending. During this phase, the designer meets with the client and they discuss project goals and objectives. Basically, they summarize what the product aims to be. At this point, the designer should have a very clear understanding of the client's vision, the target market, the user profile, and any other budgetary considerations. During this time, the designer and the client work as a unit to figure out what the problem or design solution aims to fix. This basically means expanding on the client's initial request and brief and kind of adding some design language to it. They may have to identify some pain points in the current product or figure out if there's any unmet needs in the market. The second stage is one that many designers are really aware of. This stage is called user research. At this stage, the designer should have a very clear understanding of what the project is all about. The brief should already be integrated into their design thinking and decision making moving on. At this time, the designer should start conducting user interviews. This can be done through the form of meeting up with potential users and kind of understanding their behavior, their preferences, and any pain points that they see in the product usage itself. This type of research allows designers to truly connect with these potential users. They can understand who they are and kind of figure out what design solutions can be made in order to make a better product. This has proven time and time again that it is the best form of user research. However, there are limitations, the problems being that there is budget to be considered and the timeline available. What I mean here is that the designer can only focus on a certain number of users. Other forms of research, such as questionnaires or surveys, allow the designer to really widen the user base pool. After reviewing questionnaires and surveys, the designer may notice that they have a lot of data available on their hands. The constraints of such form of research are directly linked to the inability of connecting with the potential users. Both of these methodologies work great. However, it is completely up to the client and the designer to select which type of research fits the project budget and timeline best. Obviously, user interviews are the best option for designers. They get to connect with the final user, and the outcome that will help them on the decision making is actually what matters the most. Obviously, user interviews take a lot more time and a bigger budget to perform. However, they allow the designer to improve their decision making and decision thinking. When the projects and timeline are limited, the end result of such research may be relatively weak. In some cases, the project's budgets and timelines do not allow for designers to perform any sort of research at all. Happily, we always have access to the web. This allows us to proceed with the third research phase called market analysis. During this phase, the designer enters the vast amount of data available on the internet and explores competitors and their products. At this point, the designer aims to spot any differences or similarities between the competitors' products and the product that they're building themselves. Once the similarities and differences are spotted by the designer, they can proceed to perform a SWOT analysis, basically meaning a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis for their own product and the product of the competitors. A SWOT analysis, much like in a business practice, helps a designer focus and understand where a competitor's product is excelling in and the opportunities for their own product to excel in. Essentially, this step acts as a source of inspiration for what to do and what not to do in regards to competitors and their own product. The fourth and final stage of research is what we refer to as materials and tech analysis. It's pretty much as clear as it sounds. The designer here aims to look through various materials based on their durability, their cost effectiveness, aesthetics, and so on. The designer should always be kept up to date with new materials or upcoming technologies, even if they're not really implemented into their industry yet. It is also vital that the designer completely understands the technology and materials used in a product's manufacturing process. This can be easily figured out through analyzing the product's own manufacturing history or trying to understand the manufacturing of products of similar construction. This is a very big and widely recognized issue in our industry. Without holding such knowledge, the designer can fall into the realm of creating and imagining products that cannot be realized due to manufacturing concerns. So these are the 4 stages that make up the research and discovery phase. At this point, the designer already holds a very strong base and can move on with the product's development. Now they're armed with a knowledge that they did not have before. They can move on and be very confident that the design process will go buttery smooth. To me, the research and discovery phase is the most crucial one. However, it is not really the phase where most critical design decisions are taken. The place where a designer's imagination can really run wild is called the conceptualization and ideation phase. At this time, the designer has already grasped the brief, they have connected with the potential users, they can understand what their needs and wants are, and they know how to make the design work. Now, how does a designer truly bring all that knowledge and data into physical form? Well, firstly through their own imagination. During the brainstorming stage, designers can work with other designers and engineers to kind of collaboratively think and produce new ideas. Ideas are now confidently thrown around. The ones that stick around just a little longer are given a visual representation through sketching. The designer now has a new and exciting idea to put down on paper, or in many cases a screen. The most favored ideas are drawn to capture the core concept of the design, and this allows other designers and engineers to give in their input and insights. Once an idea or a set of ideas passes through a large number of revisions, it can eventually reach the final rendering phase. That can be done through traditional methods such as paper use, or it can be done through digital media. With a final render or set of renders in hand, the designer, together with the client, can decide on which direction fits the project brief best. Now that the design direction has been identified, the next step would be prototyping. Currently, we have access to different types of prototyping technologies. One of them would be rapid prototyping, where low-fidelity prototypes are made through the use of simple materials such as cardboard and foam. Another form of prototyping, called a high-fidelity prototype, is mostly performed once a rapid prototype is successful. In this stage, designers work to make a real-life prototype where it can resemble the functionality and form of the final product. This ensures that everyone involved in the project can fully comprehend the final design direction. Now that we have a final design that is agreed upon in hand, designers and engineers work in common using advanced CAD software to create 3D models and technical drawings. This phase is what we refer to as detailed design. During this phase, all subassembly parts are taken into consideration in final detail. The CAD software allows us to give precise measurements, tolerances, and form to the product. More intricate products often demand an extended construction period, particularly in the case of non-static products. Products that involve stretching, compression, or deformation require multiple prototyping iterations, especially when the final material differs from the one used in the prototypes. Once the CAD model is constructed, technical drawings are drafted, mostly by a specialist engineer or drafter whose aim is to produce drawings in the scope of manufacturing the product accurately. Designers can give their input to the drafter in matters of both aesthetics and functionality so that they make sure that the final product matches the standards set by the client. Some of these inputs can be related to ergonomics, form, material feel, technology, and so on. The next step involves producing a final series of prototypes, trying to get a result that is as close as possible to the mass manufactured product. In most cases, producing a prototype out of a mold is generally avoided due to high costs. Once the final prototype is assembled, designers and engineers can finally spot any last remaining areas of improvement through testing on both functionality and performance. Once everyone is happy with the end result, the 3D models, technical drawings, and other assembly information are sent off to the manufacturing partner so the project can finally reach its manufacturing stage. Now that everything is settled and everyone is on the same page, everyone works together to finish up any final details for the manufacturing process. Throughout the manufacturing phase, designers maintain their involvement with the client and the project, offering oversight during the initial manufacturing stages. This ensures that the product adheres to the specifications and standards set by the product team and the client. Now that the product has finally been mass produced and a stock is ready, it can be finally introduced into the market. Marketing teams aim to increase awareness and demand for the product through different marketing campaigns targeting the expected user profile. In many cases, as a product is never truly finished, this whole life cycle that we just talked about is repeated to better and improve the product that was just made. This is eventually done through real feedback by real users in a real-world scenario. So this is it. It might sound pretty simple. However, there's a lot of different teams and decision makers that take part into a product's design lifecycle. A lot more aspects such as budgeting, timelines, and logistics have to be agreed upon in common by every team member so the project brief is satisfied. Designing a product today requires a lot of knowledge and experience in the field. It can be really rough, however, the end result can be really satisfactory. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to our channel below. If you're interested in more tips, educational content, and upcoming resources for both designers and architects, please visit our free blog at factandform.com. You can also leave a comment below to let us know of other topics that you would like for us to cover.